Congratulations, you finally got the offer into a fully funded Masters of PhD program in the United States. While this is such a relief and an exciting news, following all the efforts you've put into this process so far, there is this final ordeal of the F1 interview process that you need to complete to fulfill your dream of studying in the United States. Listen, before we go into the nitty-gritty of how to answer interview questions and whatnot, I want to tell you something that is very fundamental for you to have the right mindset for this entire interview process. If you're an individual who has written statement of purpose all by yourself, emailed professors, even done some virtual interviews with potential supervisors here in the United States, I want you to know that you're a very, very valuable person, that any country, including the United States, is blessed or will be blessed to have in their country. So having this at the back of your mind, we want to put everything away from a fearful mindset, knowing that you are a very valuable person. And you that can go through that entire process up to this point can equally secure an F1 visa for the United States. That being said, what exactly is an F1 visa? An F1 visa is a type of non-immigrant visa that is offered to students to come and study in the United States. There are different categories of visas to come to the United States, but particularly if you are coming to study for about 2 years or more, you will be offered an F1 visa. So remember I said that an F1 visa is a non-immigrant visa. You are coming in, but not to migrate into the country. So that is what F1 visa falls under. So when you are speaking at the embassy or with a visa officer, there are three major things that visa officer wants to confirm. One, that you are a genuine student. That is, you have true intentions to come to the United States, study, and also to probably return to your own country. So remember we said that it is a non-immigrant visa. So they want to be sure that from the things that you are saying or from the documents you presented, you have like strong ties back to your home country that shows that you are likely to go back home after you completed your study. Another thing they want to confirm is that you have the financial backing to actually complete your education. In the United States, begging doesn't pay any fees. Like if you don't have your school fees, if you don't have your stipend to pay for your basic needs, like you can become a burden to the society. So they don't want any of that. So they want to be sure that you have the right financial backing to actually complete your education. So that being said, what are some of the important documents you need to take along with you for your interview? Number one on the list is a valid passport. So when I'm talking about a valid passport, like a valid passport that will not be expiring anytime within the next 6 months or preferably within the next 1 year. So you need a valid passport that you probably even used when you are applying to the school that offered you admission. Number two, you need your signed I-20. Notice I said signed. So an I-20 is like a summary of what program you are coming to do, what school you are coming to do, what kind of expenses you have, like what is your school fees, right? How much of it your school is probably covering, or how much of it you are probably covering with personal funds. So that is an I-20. It's kind of, I'm going to show a screenshot of what that document looks like here. So when you get it from your school, you get it from your school maybe after, if it is a offer that does not come with full funding, you get the I-20 after you have provided bank evidence for what your deficit is, right? Or if it is fully funded, you probably get it right on the go. So one thing again that I want to emphasize for the I-20, that you need to sign it before you go to the embassy. Please do not make the mistake of going or even applying for your visa with a non-signed I-20. So after the I-20, you have a DS-160 confirmation page that probably when you submitted your visa application. So you need that. And you want to make sure that whatever you put on that DS-160 is correct and up to date. Apart from that, you must have paid for what we call a service fee. You should have paid that before you go for your interview. So you need that document. You also should probably go along with your admission offer letter that the school gave you. All of these documents are just things to hold on, like evidences to support your application, not necessarily things that you need to present when you get there. Obviously, you need to present your passport, but every other document that I've also mentioned, you need them, but it is exactly when they ask you for this passport or these documents that you should be presenting them. Okay, so now we've successfully handled the fundamentals in terms of what is the reason for an F1 visa, what are the documents that we need, and now let's go into what are some of the questions that you can be asked during an F1 visa interview. One thing that I think that is very essential for anybody going for an F1 interview to do is to actually read your statement of purpose. When you were applying to the school that offered you admission or the schools that offered you admission, you wrote a statement of purpose, like to show your intention for why you wanted to come into that program, right? I'll link a video in the description box and also in a card up here that talks more about how to write your statement of purpose. So you wrote that statement of purpose, and that is probably one of the most crucial documents that is submitted to convince the school that you're a right candidate for their school and also for that program. That same document again contains so much more than just applying for that school. It also contains like some responses that you can use for your F1 visa interview. Visa officer is trying to confirm some basic things that you probably already answered in that your statement of purpose. So I think that before you start just copying people's response from online and just trying to adapt people's response, knowing fully well that your case is very specific to you, I think that you should take time to actually read your statement of purpose all over again and internalize it to help you properly and effectively answer to all of the different questions that will be coming up with as we discussed. So the first thing again is that the visa officer wants to determine that you are a genuine student. So if somebody tells you that they are a student of chemical engineering, how do you actually find being a student? How do you confirm that they are a student? It's based on the knowledge that they have of their field. The questions trying to give evidence for that part of the interview is basically asking you, what is your knowledge of your field? How passionate are you about that field? And how knowledgeable are you to even advance in that field? So the questions, for example, could be, why chemical engineering? You have to give like an evidence to show that, oh, I am interested in chemical engineering, maybe because of the undergraduate courses that I took and some of the passion that I have had over the years that has brought me here. So while it might be easy for me to give you like a generic answer, but there's something that is very peculiar to you. So for example, in my case, I was asked, one of the questions that they asked me was, what is my background? That was the first question the visa interviewer asked me. And I said, my background is I did a bachelor's in zoology where I learned about, cell and molecular biology. And that really spiked my interest for that field, which is why I decided to take up an internship after my undergraduate degree that exposed me to more advanced skills in molecular biology. Following that, I saw the need to pursue an advanced degree in biology where I'm going to be doing like an independent research on the field of cell and molecular biology. You see how this answer of mine might not necessarily be yours, but if you read your statement of purpose again, I'm sure you're going to find the missing link here and there. So the question, trying to understand whether you're a genuine student, is basically asking for your knowledge of your field. You should have knowledge that is beyond what a layman would have. So you should have like prerequisite knowledge of your field to answer questions that might arrive. Another way that question come up is, why that program, right? So you might have interest in chemical engineering, but why is it that you chose that program in that school? Again, this would something that will already be evident in your statement of purpose. There's a reason why you chose that program. While for many people, the reason why you chose that program might just be because that might be the only school that you got admitted to, or that is the school that offered you the most financial support. But you actually don't want to put this forward that way because that doesn't show you as a scholar. So you want to put forward that the reason why you are choosing that school or that program is because of something specific or peculiar to that program. Present it more in terms of maybe the knowledge you'll be gaining, or the specific professor that you are going to be working with, the skills they have, and how you see that really putting you forward for advancement in your degree. So that being said, again and again and again, read your statement of purpose before you start trying to draft your answers for the different questions that can arise during your interview. Another interesting question that can arise during your interview could be around what you've been doing since you graduated from your first degree. Remember the intent of the visa officer, which is to determine that you're a genuine student, two, that you have financial support, and three, that you're most likely going back to your country when you're done with your program. So you want to make sure that your answers are actually proving one or more of all of these things that they are looking for. So if they're asking you, what have you been doing since you graduate? You want to make sure that your answer is showing you to be somebody who is scholastic. So you could talk about maybe like the job opportunities that you have taken that is in relation to the field of interest, like the field that you're applying to. So if you've taken so many job offers after your undergraduate, you want to make sure you're only highlighting the ones that directly relates to the field that you are moving on with for your graduate program. So you can talk about, even if you've not had like a full-time job, there could be volunteer opportunities that you have done that is relating to your field. So all of those things are what you want to highlight. For example, for in my case, I talked about my internship and like the skills that I have gained and how that has actually prepared me for an advanced degree in what I'm currently doing. So you want to make sure that you are carefully drafting and crafting your answers. One thing that I recommend is not just to say these things, but to actually write it down. During my time, I listed the different possible questions that they could ask me and I drafted the answer for it. Not because I wanted to cram it, but because I just wanted to look for like the main points that I wanted to talk about. For example, in this case, about what I have been doing. There are different things that I have been doing, but I want to make sure that what I'm going to say during the interview are only things that relate with like my future in terms of the degree that I wanted to do. So put all of this together, like I said, the answers that you need for probably all of these questions are already in your statement of purpose. And you will be doing yourself a lot of good by reading your statement of purpose before you appear for your interview. All right, so now to another very important question, which is around financing, which is usually a deal breaker for many people, especially if they don't have like a fully funded offer. So if you're asked that how do you intend to finance your degree, trust me, when you submitted your visa application, you submitted your I-20 most likely. So they know the details that are already on that document. So you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're saying match closely with what you already have in what you submitted. So for example, let's say you got like an 80% funding from your school. You can be like, I got a 80% funded funding from my school, Minnesota State University Mankato, and I covered the deficit by personal savings that I have saved from working at this role for this number of years where I've actually earned so amounts. So you see the way I answered that question by not just I tried to give a bit more detail, I thinking ahead for them, but also not talking too much. So I'm going to talk about the fact that my school, which I think is the most important part because they gave the most offer, right? So you're going to talk about this is the amount my school is offering me, which is going to cover my tuition and to make up for the other living expenses that I have. I am covering that using my savings that I have saved over the years. And there is evidence. So if there's a need to like for further document, I have evidence to show that I actually have this money to cover for the deficit. So you want to make sure that your story is genuine and true before you try to copy. I see a lot of people trying to just copy people's response on here, but I am saying this again and again. Your story is very peculiar to you and make it unique by being confident in the way you answer your question and making sure that you practice your responses ahead of time before you go for that interview. Another very interesting question that I want us to talk about is about ties, both home and abroad. So there are usually like a lot of different opinions about how people should answer the question of do you know somebody abroad? Like, do you have a sibling in the United States? What I would say 100% is that you should be honest, right? And you should know that there is a difference between your close families and extended families. So, for example, I was actually asked this question and my answer was yes, because I did have a relative in the United States. And one thing you want to make sure that you do, answering this question only for like close families. If a family that I have was like an extended family, my answer would have been no. But this was like a direct sibling, and I said yes. And what usually like people have said so many things about the fact that saying you have somebody abroad could break your application. But for my case, it wasn't actually so. What I think is most important is the record of that family member that you have abroad. You know, like the way they say when you are trying to throw stone in the market, be careful because you could just eat your family member. So the record that that family member has in the United States can actually influence the visa officer's decision of you. But trust me, if your family member is a law-abiding citizen or law-abiding non-immigrant, I don't think their record here in the United States will affect your application. As far as, like I said earlier, they are law-abiding, they have not committed any crime. If your sibling or your relative has committed a grievous crime, it is probably likely that the visa officer can think that you might act in the same way, and maybe that can influence. But if you have none of this, trust me, there is no reason for you to lie because they probably find out. When your siblings were applying, they probably put down your name. So please make sure that you're as truthful as possible. But one thing I say, if the family member is not a close relative, I think the answer is just fine as no. But if it's a sibling, you should just go ahead and say the truth that you have a sibling. They could also ask you what they are doing. You want to get ready for all of these questions. Ask your siblings, what are they doing? they could ask you where do they live. But I think that is not really the focus of an F1 interview, except if you're going for a visit to see their siblings, and that's probably when they want to pry into more details. So make sure that you know your siblings, and your siblings are please acting well wherever they are, so that they don't negatively influence your chances of getting your F1 visa interview approved. So another important question that you can be asked is in relation to your post-study plan. When you are answering this question, always remember that the kind of visa you're applying for is a non-immigrant visa. That is, a visa that is offered to somebody who has the intention of returning to their own country. So when you are answering this question, make sure that your response is showing that you have intentions of returning back to your own country. So this could be your plan, but that does not necessarily mean that at the end of your program, that is exactly what you're going to do, because you do have people have different change of mind over the course of their program. So a very good answer to this could be that after I have completed my program in biology, I am hoping to apply the skills and the exposure that I have gained from this advanced degree to set up a biotech company in my home country to address the need for so and so in my country. You want to make sure that many people will just say they are going back to their home country. But I think it makes better sense and puts you better if you kind of make showing that you are going back to your home country to solve a particular problem that the skills in your program that you have done is actually getting you ready to do. So yes, you're going back to your home country, but to do this because the skills that I'm gaining from my program is getting me ready for this and this. So one thing I would advise is that try not to confine yourself too much with these answers and try not to be too vague. Another question that is very, very popular on the F1 interview platform is that they could ask you, how did you actually find your school? The truth could be that you found your school by a friend, and that is good, a friend that is in program. You could talk about how you had somebody in the school who recommended the program to you, and also but show that you also put in effort to actually like confirm that this school is of interest to you. So yes, somebody could have recommended the program to you, but you also had to do the work of researching the program better, making sure that their goals aligned with you, that they had the right research facility for you to complete like your independent research and so forth and so on. So make sure that you are not just showing like was placed on your feet like a platter, but that you also actually did so and so to ensure that this school was the right fit for you. You could also be asked that what's the number of schools that you applied to. Please, most likely never going to be one. So be truthful about the schools that you applied to, and if you got offers from those other schools too, you might want to say that you got offers, but be ready for like a follow-up question about why you chose this school over that school. And the reason should not just be because they gave you more money, right? The reason should be something that links to your career goals or your academic goals. Maybe the other school that you have decided to move ahead with had more, research facility, had more like a larger international student body. That could be a reason. That's a valid reason. It could be because that the weather in that particular school is better for your health. So make sure that you're not just making it look like you got everything on a platter of gold. So make sure you are showing that you made critical reasoning before you made your choice. I hope that you've been able to learn one or two from this video, because it was so exciting to discuss this topic, and I am rooting for you guys. I want you to let me know down in the comment section if you learned one or two, or there are other questions you want me to give an idea about how to answer them, and if there are other topics you want me to answer. I can't wait for you guys to come in the comment section and share your story of how you got your interview, your visa successful. I also got mine in 2023, and looking back now, I'm very grateful for the resources that I found online that prepared me for that process. I hope that this will be one of them for you as well. See you in my next video.